In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, demands your energy, and tests your patience, finding a stable center can feel impossible. Every message, every expectation, every subtle social cue can become a storm battering the fragile calm of your mind. Yet, within you lies the capacity to create a refuge, a space untouched by chaos, where clarity, strength, and autonomy are yours to command. Like Medusa, whose gaze commanded power, you too can cultivate an internal fortress that preserves your equanimity. Imagine a moment when the noise swells, a sudden conflict at work, an unexpected critique, the relentless pace of life pressing in from every side. Many respond with tension, fear, or reactive emotion. But there is another way: a deliberate pause, a conscious withdrawal into the mind's sanctuary, a steadying breath that reclaims control over the whirlwind. This internal refuge is not an escape. It is a practice of mastery, a personal command post from which you navigate the external storm with intention. Creating this refuge requires insight, discipline, and courage. It is built through reflection, boundary setting, and the consistent cultivation of emotional resilience. Stoic philosophy teaches that while we cannot control external events, we can govern our perception and response. Medusa's archetype embodies this principle, the power to petrify chaos not with violence, but with unwavering presence, self-possession, and clarity of mind. In chaos, the unshakable gaze remains centered and discerning. The journey to your internal refuge is not linear. It is a continuous practice. Daily moments, breathing through tension, observing emotion without judgment, choosing response over reaction, strengthen your mental sanctuary. Each intentional pause, each mindful boundary, and each act of self-reflection adds a stone to your fortress. Over time, this inner citadel becomes an unassailable domain where the storms of life may rage, but your core remains intact. This guide will walk you through the process of becoming like Medusa in your own life, cultivating solitude as strength, observing without being consumed, establishing firm boundaries, and transforming external chaos into clarity. By embracing these principles, you will not only survive turbulent moments, you will transform them into opportunities to strengthen your mind. Refine your emotional center and embody the calm power that defines those who have mastered themselves. Welcome to this journey of mastering your inner world. In the midst of constant demands, social pressure, and emotional turbulence, it is easy to feel pulled apart by external chaos. But you are not at the mercy of life's storms. Like Medusa, whose gaze turned danger into defense, you have the ability to create an internal refuge, a sanctuary where clarity, calm, and self-possession reign. This is a practice, a deliberate cultivation of your emotional and mental strength, and it is accessible to every woman willing to commit to her own mastery. Throughout this guide, you will learn practical strategies to fortify your mind, establish firm boundaries, and transform moments of overwhelm into opportunities for reflection and growth. You will explore the principles of Stoic philosophy applied to modern life, learning how to observe without being consumed, respond without reacting, and protect your center with unwavering presence. Every concept is grounded in psychology, philosophy, and the timeless archetype of Medusa, offering tools that are as practical as they are empowering. Now, take a moment to engage with this content fully. Subscribe to stay connected to insights that can transform the way you navigate emotional challenges. Like this video if you resonate with the idea of building your internal refuge. And comment below, let us know which city and country you're watching from. Your presence matters, and sharing your perspective adds depth to this collective exploration of female strength and autonomy. The path ahead is not about perfection. It is about resilience, reflection, and reclaiming control over your inner life. By committing to this practice, you are choosing to prioritize your mental sanctuary, your emotional well-being, and your authentic self. Step in, breathe deeply, and prepare to discover how to be like Medusa, calm, centered, and unshakable, no matter the chaos around you. Creating an internal refuge begins with acknowledging that chaos is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Life constantly presents situations beyond your control, unexpected conflicts, demanding responsibilities, or emotional storms triggered by others. The first step toward building your inner sanctuary is to recognize that your mind and emotional responses are domains you can govern. Like Medusa, who transformed vulnerability into strength, you have the power to turn external turmoil into an opportunity for mastery rather than defeat. Understanding that you are not the events themselves, but the observer of those events, is foundational for establishing mental autonomy. The practice of observation without attachment is central to Stoicism. When tension arises, pause and take note of your immediate thoughts and bodily reactions. Instead of reacting impulsively, reflect. Is this worth my energy? Will engaging intensify the chaos or serve my long-term well-being? By creating this mental pause, you are effectively erecting the first walls of your internal refuge. Your responses become measured, your actions intentional, and the external storm loses its ability to dictate your emotional state. This is the first principle of emotional sovereignty, observing without being consumed. Solitude, when chosen intentionally, becomes a critical tool for inner fortification. Moments of quiet reflection are not isolation. They are active engagement with your own mind. Dedicate time each day to sit with your thoughts, breathe deeply, and notice the patterns that stir anxiety or agitation. By making solitude a deliberate practice, you cultivate resilience and sharpen your ability to respond rather than react. Medusa's gaze, immovable and discerning, mirrors the clarity achieved through disciplined solitude. In these moments, you strengthen your capacity to remain centered even amid chaos. Boundary setting is equally essential. Emotional and psychological safety is created when you define the limits of what you accept from others. This is not about alienation. It is about self-preservation and clarity of focus. Identify relationships, behaviors, and environments that drain your energy or incite unnecessary stress. Firmly, yet compassionately, establish what is acceptable and what is not. By enforcing these boundaries consistently, your internal refuge becomes a protected space, impervious to external manipulation or undue influence. Daily reflection strengthens the inner sanctuary further. At the end of each day, review moments where chaos challenged your calm. What triggered emotional reactivity? Where did you maintain presence and clarity? Journaling these observations allows you to refine your practice and notice patterns that either erode or reinforce your internal refuge. Over time, these reflections accumulate into a deep well of self-awareness, a mental blueprint for navigating future storms with poise. Breathing and mindfulness exercises are practical pillars of emotional mastery. When external pressures rise, grounding yourself through intentional breath slow, measured, and conscious shifts the nervous system from reactive to reflective. This physiological tool reinforces psychological stability, giving you the sensation of control even in high-intensity situations. Combining mindfulness with stoic reflection turns every stressful encounter into a training ground for your inner strength. Echoing Medusa's composed vigilance, acceptance of what cannot be changed is another cornerstone. External events, other people's behaviors, and uncontrollable circumstances will always arise. Resistance only intensifies suffering. Embrace stoic acceptance without resignation. Recognize what lies within your sphere of influence and what does not. This discernment allows your inner refuge to remain unshaken, as you focus energy on deliberate actions rather than futile resistance. Medusa's archetype teaches that power comes not from controlling the outside world, but mastering one's own perceptions and responses. The cultivation of mental imagery can deepen your sanctuary. Visualize your internal refuge as a fortress, a garden, or any space that symbolizes strength and calm. Regularly returning to this imagery enhances your capacity to access tranquility instantly, even during high-stress situations. This practice reinforces the neural pathways associated with calm, turning refuge from abstract concept to embodied reality. In essence, your mind becomes a space where chaos cannot trespass without your consent. Integrating these practices into daily life requires discipline and intentionality. Start small, pause before responding to challenging situations, schedule brief periods of solitude, reflect nightly, and maintain your boundaries consistently. Each small action fortifies the walls of your refuge, making it increasingly accessible and resilient. Over time, these habits accumulate, forming a comprehensive system of emotional self-governance. Like Medusa, your presence becomes a stabilizing force, unmovable, discerning, and fiercely autonomous. Ultimately, creating an internal refuge is about reclaiming power over your own mind. It is about refusing to be swept away by every external storm and choosing to act from clarity, presence, and strength. Women who embrace this practice transform chaos from a source of vulnerability into a catalyst for growth and self-mastery. The journey is ongoing, but each deliberate act of reflection, boundary setting, and mindful presence strengthens your inner citadel, preparing you to face life's turbulence with unwavering composure. Emotional turbulence often arises not only from external chaos, but also from internal narratives that amplify stress. The mind can become a storm of what-ifs, self-criticism, and imagined expectations. Building an internal refuge requires cultivating awareness of these patterns. Recognize that your thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations. By observing them without immediate reaction, you create the mental space to choose your responses intentionally. Like Medusa, whose gaze transformed threat into protection, this practice turns internal chaos into a controlled domain of insight and clarity. Developing emotional autonomy begins with self-recognition. Identify moments when you feel reactive or anxious and ask yourself why. What external pressures or internal beliefs trigger these responses? Through deliberate reflection, you learn to separate your sense of self from the turbulence around you. You realize that while events may be uncontrollable, your perception and response remain sovereign. This awareness forms the foundation of your inner refuge, where observation precedes action and composure becomes habitual. Mindful presence anchors the mind in the present moment, preventing it from being swept into spirals of worry or rumination. Techniques such as focused breathing, body scans, or sensory awareness allow you to return to a grounded state when chaos intensifies. Each act of returning to presence reinforces the neural pathways of calm, gradually turning mindfulness into an automatic skill. Medusa's archetype reflects this mastery, immovable, perceptive, and unwavering amidst distraction or threat. Establishing firm personal boundaries protects your energy and reinforces your inner sanctuary. Boundaries clarify what you will accept emotionally, mentally, and socially, creating a defined space where chaos has limited influence. This requires courage and consistency, especially in relationships or environments that challenge your autonomy. By maintaining these boundaries, you signal to yourself and others that your internal refuge is sacred and non-negotiable, mirroring Medusa's unwavering self-possession. Self-compassion is a vital aspect of emotional resilience. Recognize that moments of weakness, doubt, or fear do not indicate failure. They are natural human experiences. Respond to them with the same patience and understanding you would offer a trusted friend. This practice softens the internal critique that often fuels chaos, allowing your refuge to remain a nurturing space rather than a battleground. Over time, compassion strengthens emotional regulation and deepens self-trust. Regular reflection consolidates lessons from experience, helping you refine your inner refuge. At day's end, examine situations where chaos challenged your composure. Did you maintain your center, or were you drawn into reactive patterns? What strategies worked, and what requires adjustment? Journaling these insights creates a personal guide for navigating future storms, transforming each challenge into a deliberate practice of self-mastery. Visualization enhances the accessibility of your refuge. Picture your internal space as a stronghold where you can retreat and regain clarity. Engage all senses in this imagery: the sound of calm, the solidity beneath your feet, the clear light that fills the space. This mental rehearsal strengthens your ability to access stability instantly during emotional upheaval, ensuring your response remains deliberate and controlled even when the external world is unpredictable. Intentional action reinforces emotional sovereignty. In chaotic situations, take deliberate steps aligned with your values and goals rather than reacting impulsively. This may mean pausing before responding, communicating assertively, or withdrawing temporarily to regain composure. Each intentional action solidifies your presence and authority over your internal state, demonstrating that chaos does not dictate your behavior, only your mindful choices do. Integration of these practices into daily life transforms the internal refuge from a conceptual idea into a lived reality. Morning routines, brief pauses during work, journaling, and reflective evening practices all serve as reinforcement mechanisms. By embedding these habits into everyday life, resilience becomes second nature and emotional autonomy strengthens. Like Medusa, your calm gaze and deliberate presence become recognizable forces that shape interactions rather than being shaped by them. Ultimately, cultivating an internal refuge is about reclaiming control over your mental and emotional world. It is an ongoing process of observation, reflection, boundary setting, and mindful action. Women who embrace this practice create a space within themselves that remains unshaken by external turbulence, transforming potential overwhelm into clarity and empowerment. Each deliberate act fortifies the fortress of your mind, allowing you to navigate life with composure, insight, and unwavering strength. Building an internal refuge requires understanding that emotions are signals, not commands. Anxiety, frustration, or fear often feel overwhelming because they are interpreted as threats demanding immediate action. Yet, by observing these emotions as information rather than imperatives, you regain authority over your response. Like Medusa, whose gaze transformed danger into control, women can learn to translate emotional intensity into strategic insight. This mindset shifts the focus from reaction to intentional action, forming a core pillar of emotional sovereignty. Self-awareness begins with acknowledging emotional triggers. What situations consistently provoke tension, irritation, or fear? By identifying these patterns, you create a map of vulnerability, allowing you to anticipate and prepare rather than be blindsided. Reflection journals, mindful observation, or discussions with trusted allies provide clarity. The goal is not to eliminate emotional responses, but to regulate them, ensuring that you act from composure rather than being swept into reactive cycles. The practice of cognitive distancing is essential. When faced with stress, step back mentally and observe the situation objectively. Ask yourself, is this within my control? How significant will this be in a week, a month, or a year? By cultivating perspective, you prevent immediate emotional upheaval from dictating decisions. This aligns with Stoic philosophy, emphasizing that our power lies in how we perceive and interpret events rather than the events themselves. Intentional solitude strengthens the mind's resilience. Carving out regular periods of reflection allows you to consolidate experiences, analyze emotional responses, and reinforce mental clarity. Solitude is not withdrawal but preparation. It is the active construction of an internal space where thoughts can be examined safely, strategies developed, and energy replenished. Medusa's solitary strength serves as a metaphor. Independence of thought fosters unwavering composure. Boundary setting is a continuous practice, not a one-time decision. Each interaction tests your limits and reveals areas needing reinforcement. Saying no when necessary, prioritizing personal time, and limiting exposure to negativity are all acts that maintain your refuge. Clear boundaries communicate both to yourself and to others that your mental space is inviolable, protecting it from intrusion and unnecessary stress. Breathing and mindfulness are powerful tools for immediate emotional regulation. Slow, conscious breaths signal the nervous system to shift from reactivity to reflection, calming the physiological response to stress. Combining this with focused awareness, observing thoughts and bodily sensations without judgment, creates a stabilizing anchor. In moments of crisis, this practice allows you to access your internal refuge instantly, maintaining control over both mind and body. Reflection on daily experiences consolidates learning. Review challenging moments. Which strategies preserved your calm and which could be improved? This iterative process strengthens the mental framework of your refuge, reinforcing adaptive responses and reducing susceptibility to future disturbances. Journaling or mental reviews become practical exercises in resilience, cultivating a steady, discerning presence akin to Medusa's vigilant gaze. Visualization enhances the refuge further. Imagine a sanctuary where every element embodies strength, stability, and serenity. Engage all senses in this mental space. The weight of solidity beneath you, the clarity of air and light, the calm sounds of the environment. Regularly practicing this visualization reinforces the neural pathways associated with emotional calm, allowing you to access composure with ease during moments of real-world chaos. Intentional response over impulsivity ensures your refuge is effective. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to practice deliberate action. Whether responding assertively, pausing before reacting, or removing yourself temporarily from a tense situation, each choice strengthens your mastery over your internal state. Medusa's archetype reminds us that authority over one's presence is not passive. It is a deliberate, conscious, and observable power. Ultimately, cultivating an internal refuge is about reclaiming your agency. It is about choosing reflection over reaction, presence over distraction, and autonomy over submission. Women who embody this practice transform emotional storms into structured learning and growth. By consistently applying self-awareness, mindfulness, solitude, boundaries, and reflection, your mind becomes an unshakable sanctuary, resilient, discerning, and unwavering amidst the chaos of life. The ability to remain centered during emotional turbulence begins with cultivating presence. Life often bombards us with conflicting demands, rapid changes, and unpredictable stressors. Without deliberate attention, the mind is pulled in multiple directions, leaving women vulnerable to anxiety and reactive patterns. Creating an internal refuge requires intentionally grounding yourself in the present moment, observing experiences without judgment, and engaging with reality as it is. Like Medusa, whose gaze remains steady amidst danger, maintaining presence transforms vulnerability into strategic calm. Understanding the triggers of emotional instability is crucial. External pressures, societal expectations, and relational conflicts can all provoke reactions that feel uncontrollable. By identifying these triggers, you gain foresight and control. Journaling, reflection, or structured self-inquiry are tools to examine recurring emotional patterns. Awareness enables you to anticipate potential challenges, prepare strategies, and maintain composure. Recognizing patterns is the first step toward converting chaotic energy into disciplined action. Stoic reflection provides a framework for responding rather than reacting. When chaos arises, pause and ask, "What is within my control?" Direct energy toward actions and thoughts that are truly yours to govern. Release attachment to outcomes beyond your influence. This mindset reinforces the refuge within your mind, creating a stable foundation even when external circumstances fluctuate unpredictably. Medusa's archetype embodies this principle, demonstrating power through disciplined awareness and intentional action. Solitude is not withdrawal, it is fortification. Setting aside time each day for reflection and quiet strengthens your mental resilience. In these moments, the mind can process experiences, recalibrate emotional responses, and reinforce boundaries. Solitude cultivates clarity, empowering women to navigate social pressures and emotional turbulence with authority. Like Medusa, whose presence was unshakable, intentional solitude fosters a calm, discerning center that cannot be easily disrupted. Boundaries serve as walls for your refuge. Establishing limits in relationships, work environments, and social interactions preserves emotional energy. This requires conscious, consistent enforcement and the courage to communicate clearly. By defining what is acceptable, you create a protected space where your inner sanctuary can thrive. Maintaining these boundaries ensures that external chaos does not penetrate your mental domain, reinforcing self-possession and autonomy. Mindful breathing and awareness are practical tools to stabilize emotional responses. Slow, intentional breaths signal the nervous system to shift from reactivity to reflection. Coupled with observation of thoughts and bodily sensations, mindfulness anchors attention in the present, providing a reliable mechanism to navigate stress. These practices transform moments of turbulence into opportunities to practice composure and deliberate response. Reflection consolidates learning and strengthens resilience. At the end of each day, review challenging situations and analyze your responses. Which strategies helped maintain calm? Where could improvements be made? Documenting these insights in a journal or through mental reflection cultivates awareness and adaptability. Over time, this iterative process reinforces the mental fortitude necessary to sustain your internal refuge. Visualization further enhances your inner sanctuary. Envision a space of strength, clarity, and stability, engaging all senses in the imagery. This repeated mental rehearsal strengthens neural pathways associated with calm and resilience. Accessing this refuge mentally prepares you to respond to real-world stressors with composure. Like Medusa, who controlled her environment with her gaze, visualization empowers you to maintain command over your inner world. Intentional action solidifies emotional sovereignty. When faced with chaos, make deliberate choices that align with your values and priorities. Respond assertively when necessary, pause to recalibrate when needed, and disengage when appropriate. Each intentional action reinforces your authority over your mind and reactions, demonstrating that external chaos does not dictate your behavior. Medusa's archetype embodies this mastery through controlled presence and decisive action. Ultimately, cultivating an internal refuge transforms how you engage with life. It is a deliberate practice of observation, reflection, boundary setting, and mindful action. Women who embody these principles develop a sanctuary within themselves that remains unshaken by external turbulence. By consistently practicing presence, solitude, awareness, and intentional response, Your internal refuge becomes a permanent feature of your mental landscape, resilient, discerning, and unwavering. An internal refuge is not simply a concept. It is a deliberate, lived practice that requires consistent attention and commitment. Emotional turbulence is a constant in modern life, and without intentional strategies, women can feel overwhelmed, reactive, and disconnected from their own authority. Like Medusa, whose gaze commanded respect and preserved her autonomy, cultivating an inner sanctuary enables you to engage with the world without surrendering your mental and emotional stability. This refuge is the foundation of resilience, composure, and deliberate action. The first step in building this refuge is cultivating awareness of your internal state. Observe thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations as they arise without judgment or immediate reaction. Awareness transforms chaotic impulses into manageable signals. Recognizing emotional triggers allows you to prepare responses consciously rather than being swept into reactivity. This practice empowers you to maintain presence, even when external circumstances are unpredictable or demanding. Boundaries remain a cornerstone of emotional protection. Defining what is acceptable in relationships, work environments, and social settings preserves energy and focus. Communicating these boundaries clearly, firmly, and consistently reinforces the integrity of your internal refuge. Boundaries are not walls to isolate yourself, but shields that allow you to navigate complex environments with clarity and authority. Like Medusa, who controlled her space through presence and vigilance, boundaries safeguard your inner sanctuary. Mindful breathing and centering techniques are practical tools to stabilize the nervous system. Slow, intentional breaths signal the mind and body to transition from reactive to reflective states. Coupled with awareness of your bodily sensations, these techniques anchor you in the present, allowing for deliberate, thoughtful responses. Regular practice enhances resilience, ensuring that moments of chaos do not overwhelm your composure or erode your sense of control. Solitude is an essential practice for reinforcing internal strength. Allocating dedicated time to reflect, process experiences, and evaluate emotional responses builds clarity and self-reliance. Solitude provides a safe environment for introspection and decision-making. It allows women to cultivate discernment, transform emotional intensity into strategic insight, and develop a steady presence. Like Medusa, whose strength was both visible and internal, solitude empowers you to remain unshakable amid external turbulence. Reflection consolidates growth. Regularly reviewing experiences and responses helps you identify patterns, assess effectiveness, and refine strategies for managing chaos. Journaling or mindful contemplation fosters understanding of emotional tendencies, enabling proactive adjustments. This iterative process strengthens mental fortitude and deepens your capacity to maintain an unassailable internal refuge, turning challenges into opportunities for growth. Visualization enhances your ability to access calm and composure instantly. By imagining a sanctuary filled with stability, clarity, and safety, you train the mind to respond predictably under stress. Engage all senses in this imagery: the weight of solid ground, the clarity of light, the calm sounds surrounding you. Visualization transforms the abstract concept of refuge into a tangible, accessible experience, strengthening your psychological resilience. Intentional action ensures that your refuge is effective in real-world scenarios. Each response to external challenges becomes an opportunity to exercise control and reinforce composure. This may involve assertive communication, measured withdrawal, or deliberate engagement, depending on the situation. Deliberate action solidifies mastery over your internal state, reinforcing that chaos does not dictate your behavior, only your mindful choices do. Self-compassion supports the ongoing practice of building a refuge. Recognize that emotional reactivity, doubt, or fatigue are part of the human experience. Respond to these moments with understanding rather than judgment. Compassion softens the internal critic, reducing unnecessary stress and fortifying your sanctuary. Over time, this practice strengthens resilience, allowing you to remain steady even when facing repeated challenges. Ultimately, cultivating an internal refuge transforms the way you navigate life. It is a structured practice of self-awareness, reflection, boundary setting, mindful action, and compassion. Women who embrace these principles create a mental and emotional sanctuary that withstands chaos, preserves autonomy, and fosters clarity. Like Medusa, whose presence remained firm despite external threats, your internal refuge enables you to engage with the world confidently, intentionally, and unshakably. Building an internal refuge is the deliberate act of reclaiming authority over your mind and emotions. Chaos will always exist. Unexpected pressures, social demands, and emotional turbulence are inevitable aspects of life. Yet, like Medusa, who turned vulnerability into power, women can cultivate an inner sanctuary that transforms external storms into opportunities for clarity, reflection, and growth. Your refuge is not a retreat from life. It is a space of empowerment, composure, and intentional response. The practice of solitude, reflection, mindful breathing, and boundary setting strengthens this sanctuary, allowing you to observe without being consumed, act without being reactive, and respond without being overwhelmed. Each moment of awareness and each deliberate choice adds resilience to your inner citadel, creating a mental and emotional space that remains unshaken regardless of external pressures. This is the essence of emotional sovereignty, the ability to maintain control over your inner world even when the outside world is chaotic. Ultimately, creating an internal refuge is a commitment to yourself, a daily practice of self-mastery, clarity, and presence. By consistently nurturing this space, you cultivate a life of agency, authenticity, and unwavering strength. Women who embrace this practice step into their power fully, navigating life's turbulence with the calm, discerning, and commanding presence that defines the Medusa archetype, unmovable, resolute, and wholly in command of her inner world.